New York City jury has found former U.S. President Donald Trump liable of sexual abusing and defaming magazine writer E. Jean Carroll. In a civil lawsuit, Carroll accused Trump of raping her in the luxury Manhattan department store in the mid-1990s and defamed her reputation by branding her a liar on social media. The jury believes Trump did not rape Carroll, but they do believe he sexually abused her. Trump had denied all these allegations when he appeared in court virtually. In total, Carroll has been awarded $5 million in damages. Let's now bring in legal analyst Ari Goldkind for more. Ari, good afternoon, and thank you for your time on CTV News Channel. Let's get your first reactions on this story. What do you think about what we have heard so far?
Great to be with you. It's a really interesting verdict. A lot of people will misunderstand that this is not a criminal finding. This is not a Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby type of finding. It's at a civil standard with the preponderance of evidence. But there's some points that really jump out as interesting to me. They awarded her $3 million to E. Jean Carroll for defamation for Trump's tweet about a year ago in 2022 versus $2 million for the sexual abuse or battery. That's a really interesting number. And to get to that number, they believed that Trump was actually tweeting, or not actually tweeting, truth socialing about her with actual malice. So that $5 million number, the way it's broken up, is really interesting to me. The second part about this that makes it really interesting and does tie into Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby is the amount of other women that were allowed to testify that this was Trump's pattern. And as Trump's defense counsel said, they shouldn't have been part of it because their charges are not before the court. But the testimony of a number of those women were very, very powerful. And the last point is that the calls she made in 1996, after she said this happened right away to her friends, the jury clearly felt that was very powerful evidence that she didn't just make it up last year or the year before, but that she had been concerned about this for many years.
So, Ari, what does this really mean then for Donald Trump going forward in terms of options that he has? Because, of course, he has been calling this a complete con job, as he said about this particular allegation.
Well, you're actually quite right about that, because what it means depends on the political sphere. There's a lot of people who believe these kinds of charges make him more popular in the eyes of his base, whether it be MAGA Republicans. They're of the view that this actually makes him look like a victim. I do expect him to appeal. Remember, he did not testify. He chose not to participate. His deposition, which is sort of the virtual part that you just mentioned, was one thing, but he chose not to defend it. But the last part about this is it certainly is interesting in New York that the loophole by which this case was allowed to be in the court, a one-year window for cases that otherwise were out of the statute of limitations, that's what led E. Jean Carroll into the courtroom. But given the number of other women that were allowed to testify, that really goes to the heart of the system, whether it's civil or criminal. So I would expect Trump to probably not be quiet about this. You know that his very itchy fingers will be coming up with something to say about this.
Ari, you're absolutely right there, because we do have reactions coming in from Trump on his social media platform. And let me read out to you what I'm hearing right now. He says, "I have absolutely no idea who this woman is." He carries on to say this verdict is a disgrace, calling it the greatest witch hunt of all time. So as you were saying, of course, Donald Trump was typing, and this is what he has to say about this verdict. Ari, your reaction?
Well, usually he's typing and tweeting and truth socializing at about 5 in the morning, arguably from his toilet. So the fact that he's doing this at this time is interesting. He certainly was ready for this verdict. I understand what he's saying about this woman. Putting my defense lawyer hat on for a moment, this was a very, very triable case, a very unusual complainant. It mirrored a Law and Order episode. I'm being very serious about this. It mirrored, at the time, a Law and Order episode, but the linchpin that, to me as a trial lawyer, that gave this jury really the ammunition they needed to find him responsible for this were, one, the testimony of other women. If it was just E. Jean Carroll, there's no way the jury would have found it. Number two, the fact that he didn't testify, in juries, as many, many lawyers will tell you in these kinds of cases, really do want to hear from the horse's mouth. You could call him something less nice. depending on your politics, but they really do expect to hear from the person. And I think his lack of presence and the number of women who testified against him, plus his reputation in New York, we shouldn't forget that this isn't really a jury of his peers, so to speak. This is probably a jury of people who can't stand him.
Indeed, and of course, we are showing our viewers a live shot of the New York court at the moment. We are expecting some reactions as well, and we'd love to talk to you again. Legal analyst Ari Goldkind, appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us on this breaking story as we continue to keep a close eye right outside the court, expecting reactions from either of the sides.